Hello, I'm Kenny from Owlbot, and today I'm doing a follow-up video to the unboxing of the C500 Mark II. This is actually going to be a trilogy. The third video will contain footage, but for now I just kind of wanted to show how I'm rigging this up and the features that I've noticed or that stand out to me of this camera, because in the last video the battery died, so I couldn't even go into the menus and figure everything out. To start, we'll go with the outside. I have my trusty Sigma 18-35 attached, and that is because I have found that even though it's intended for Super 35, it actually projects an image that is big enough for full frame up until you get to the 18-ish range. But if you are shooting XF AVC and you've got the stabilization turned on, it crops in enough where even at 18, I mean, it's very vignette-y, which sounds like a pasta maker, but it does work. And so pegged at 35, you're solid. And I kind of like the look of it. So I'm leaving that on for now. Like I said, I've got, or like I mismentioned, I do have full frame glass in the form of my Nikon F2 lenses, my AI lenses. I've set this up in my sort of handheld go anywhere, do everything setup, and that's because that's how I will likely use it the most, at least for now. But one thing that I do really like about this camera is the modularity. In many ways, I kind of call this the RE in a red body, and I'll explain why. So this is just the handheld mode, if you will. What I've done is I've attached a Red Rock Micro SPUD. There's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's about 8 1/4" 20 holes on the top. So this is the SPUD. This is just a very, very short 15mm rod, which has a 1/4" 20 hole on top. So you're not, oh, I didn't know it could do that. So it's a 15mm rod that's, an inch long. And then that just goes here on the back. And now I've got a great handle there where I can go around and shoot very effectively. And also you'll notice that I've got 2 rings. This one's for follow focus if I need it, but this one with the big knob here, let's see if you can see that. The big knob here is so that I can zoom without taking my hand off of the handle. So that's really nice. And this feels incredibly sturdy. And this is only, maybe like $100 worth of, if that, worth of gear. I'm sure you could get it for cheaper. I'm making that number up, but with the handle, and now the handles are at the same depth. On my C100, they were offset a little bit. So on this now they're at the same depth, so I get a little more stability there, and that's really nice. As you can see, I've got the Noga arm hooked up to the monitor. That's just so I can, quickly move it to wherever I need it to be. What I've also done is adjusted some of the buttons. The thumb button on the handle is normally set to focus guide. I have that set to one-shot autofocus, and I have the autofocus set to eye tracking. And I have to tell you, it's instant. On a whim, I was just goofing off with the camera while watching TV, and with the camera aimed at the TV, any cut between 2 people, it would pick it up. I mean, like instantaneously. There was no lag. It'd be like, boom, there's the eye, and it would focus on it. Granted, it's, flat plane, but in terms of how quickly it jumps, it's awesome. In lower light, it can take a little bit of finagling. You kind of got to put the character in the right spot, and then it goes, oh, it's a face. But in normal light, it's absolutely instant. On the side here, I switched zebra to false color because I use that more. But you could use them interchangeably. Really, I'm just looking for skin tones. When you're shooting 8-bit, my theory has always been, as long as skin tones are fine, everything else is going to fall where it does, and you can't really, unless you have control over the lighting, you can't really change anything, so focus on what you can. But with this camera, the dynamic range is so good, and the tones are so nice that it's less of a worry. Not getting skin tones, but where the extremes go. It's, I've found that they sit pretty well in your acceptable range. The ND filters, I will say, move into position pretty slowly. It's like, bing, bing. So that's not awesome, but oh well. Waveform monitor, leave that. I do like about this that you've got the RE style information, or the EVA one does this too. The information being on the outside of the, here, I'll plug this in. When the camera's not recording, the fan is very, not very aggressive, but it's a pretty solid wind, but luckily it's over here and not next to your head if you're carrying it like that, but I carry it like this. But as you can see, the data here, oh, there's my sweet mouth, is along the outside, and you can change that, you can turn it off, whatever, but I like it like that. And the other thing I like is there's multiple ways to get through the menus. You've got your little joystick here on the monitor, you know, you've got your joystick on the handle, you've got actually a joystick on the back here, and then you've got the C300 style rotatey guy, which gets you real quick through any menus. And I really like that because you never know what configuration you're going to be in, so the ability to always get to where you need to go is awesome. Function button on the back, cancel menu also on the back, so just in case you don't have the top, the monitor attached. On the front, one-shot autofocus I have changed to, maybe I shouldn't have turned it off. What number is that? 15? 15 I have switched from autofocus to focus guide, which is this cool thing that tells you whether or not your thing is in focus with these little arrows that do this. And so when you're in focus, they line up and it turns green, and you can just poke on the screen where you want that to be. Like I said, the tones on this are incredible. At the high end, people are always looking for one of two options, RE or red. I've always said that RE kind of looks more painterly and cinematic, but sort of in the traditional sense. And red is more cutting edge kind of, red goes for resolution. I feel red is extreme and RE is more delicate. And I've found that it is easier to match the Canon sensors to RE than it is to match the Canon sensors to red. I've also, and this is with less actual testing, I believe that Sony kind of looks red-like. So, in my opinion, Canon is to RE as Sony is to red, which is why I voted for the C500 over the FX9 on top of the, well, I wasn't going to say this, but the stabilization on this is really nice. In sort of point lights, it'll do that sort of vibrating pulsing if you're really giving it, but it looks like really, really well applied warp stabilizer with zero jello. You know what I mean? It's very impressive, and it only crops in a little bit, and it's just nice, especially if you shoot handheld a lot like I do, to know that that extra bit of stability is in there. Really impressed with the stabilization. The FX9 has metadata-based stabilization, which means you have to do it after the fact, and if you're handing off footage, that can be annoying. This, in my opinion, the Canon gets you closer to your final image quicker than potentially other options. So, lens options. You got all of them. PL, EF, because you can swap this out for a PL mount if you want. Full frame, oddly enough, this Super 35 covers it. But like, let's say I'm rocking this and I need to get closer, but this is the only camera I have. I can switch it to Super 35 or even Super 16 mode and still get a great image with the same lens, just closer, So I do like that option personally. And I'm used to lensing in a Super 35 sense, so that if I ever need to would go back, but I just goofing around the home, I'm really enjoying the full frame look. I never shot on the 5D, so I mean I did, but I never owned one back in college when that thing first came out, just to age myself a little bit. But yeah, so that's that. No scratch audio in the body. There is no built-in mic for scratch audio. I don't know if they ran out of room or what the deal was, but I understand it in the sense that they aren't expecting you to need it, although it does feel like somewhat of a misstep. It bothers me a little, but just a little, because obviously you're not going to use that audio, but it is nice to have. So with this, you're going to either have to have that mic installed, or you could do just a standard top mic. It has a regular old 3.5 millimeter mic hole here. So if you want to use a video mic or something for scratch audio, go for it. But whatever. This is a cinema camera, not a C100, you know. SDI, that's going to be great for client monitor or my Odyssey 7Q Plus for recording if I need it. You know, you've only got one, but to keep the body small, that makes sense. You've also got a monitor terminal. But if you need more SDI outputs, they have a unit that you can go on the back. Again, modularity, taking a note from Red's book, which I think is nice. You know, it's great for a small production, and with the expandability, it also works for a larger production. This is kind of, in reality, a C700 full frame in a C200 body, which I think is awesome. I'm telling you guys, like this, I'm excited. Okay, I'm excited. Don't take everything I say as gospel. This is coming from not a fanboy, but an excited boy. I will say you have to use CF Express if you want to record anything. You can't use the SD card. The SD card here is only for proxy recording. Also, this door scares me a little bit. I feel like this is going to break off at some point, so because it's just made out of plastic. But keep that guy closed. If you really only can use the SD card, what you can do is set your CFast card to shoot RAW, which activates the proxy mode. And then when the CFast card fills up, just erase it and keep going. And then you would have all of your 2K decent looking footage on an SD card. That's a little hack for you if for whatever reason you needed that. Because on a 128 gig card, you can record, I think I calculated, it was like 600 minutes or something. So it was like 15 hours of footage. Well, that's 10. And they're 2K, really nice looking proxies. Another thing that I really like about this is the same thing that happened, or that I noticed with the Fuji X-T3 and X Pro 3. I own an X-T3. There's a My Menu option where you can put your frequently used menu items in the My Menu, and then when you open the menu, it defaults to that first. And I really like that. So I've got about 3 pages of My Menu set up with autofocus stuff and obviously frame rates and that sort of things, toggling RAW on and off, frame guides or what have you. So that's really awesome. I will say also having the slow and fast motion buttons on the body is fantastic. I would switch between SlowMo and regular mo all the time on my C100, and I had to remap one button to switching between AVC HD and MP4 because you could only record the SlowMo in MP4, which functionally was easy enough. But, you know, I always lamented that there was not just a do slow-mo button, and this has a do slow-mo button, and then you can adjust the frame rate up to 60 FPS, at least at 4K and RAW, 6K. Starts at 12, so I have it set to 24p. 12, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. Yeah, so it counts by twos. Oh, yeah, it counts 40, 44, 48, 52, 56, 60. So it changes up, but there you go. That is that, and then just push it again. And it's instant. It's not like it switches modes or anything like on the C100. So finally, I'm going to talk about the battery. Now, people have talked about how this battery sticks out really aggressively, and that is true. If you put a module here, it doesn't look as weird, but it sticks out. And the camera, I was told that it like sucks through batteries, and it does, but not really that bad. I was goofing around with it for a whole day and didn't the battery didn't die. So the battery life, I'll do a test for you in the follow-up video. This again is just kind of a rigging and personalization sort of dig. I've never been one to trust these in the sense that I don't want to think about it. Obviously, you can trust the batteries, but I just don't want to think like, oh, you know, where's the next one? Are these charged? Whatever. I prefer using V-Locks or gold mount, whatever. But I'm using the D-Tap primarily, and I use these off camera. Now, with one of the modules here, you can just attach it to the camera, and that's more of like a studio setup. But when you're shooting handheld, that can get pretty heavy. I started off years ago just chucking this in my pocket with a big D-Tap cable that went into the camera via my Red Rock Micro Ultra Cage. And that was fine, but it pulled down my pants. I hated it. Then I set up this whole combat vest thing with all of my tools and everything I needed and radio and all that for when shoots required that. And so for this, I would either use that vest or just on my belt, use like a one of those MOLLE pouches, MOLLE. But so what I did is this is a 12 volt XLR power port instead of a DC out, which is great because it locks. With the, if you were to not use the Red Rock cage and you were just to go straight into many cameras, just that little barrel plug, there's a chance it'll get chucked out, you know, and then you just die in the middle of a shoot, which sucks. So the 12 volt is nice, and 12 volt pretty universal, or the 12 volt XLR pretty universal on film sets. So what I did is I went into Alvin's cables. I like Alvin's cables. I got a springy D-tap to 12 volt XLR. So, and this was, I think, $10 or $15 or something. So you just plug her in, and then you plug it into your D-tap. Now the camera doesn't tell you how much power is left, but if you know, you've got a little guide here on the side that'll tell you. So when that starts to get low, maybe switch it or whatever. But that should last much, much longer. This is the 95 watt hour thing. And that makes the camera a little bit lighter for handheld and keeps this off the body and gives me a lot more power as I go. So that is my current rig. This is how I will be shooting for the foreseeable future, at least with the sort of run and gun stuff, or just honestly, like the other thing I'll do is on my tripod, I will put the MOLLE pouch that holds this battery on the handle. And that way it's just, you know, you can swap it out easier. It's just nice. It's just the way I work. So there you go. There is a rigged out C500 Mark II. You'll notice that I only really am using 2-3 aftermarket parts. The rest of it came with the camera, which I really appreciate about Canon. So I hope that was informative. I hope you're as excited as I am. Probably not, because I actually have the thing. I've looked at it. I have serial number 8. So that's fun. In the follow-up video, I'll show you footage. It might be a little longer for the footage video just because A, I'm going on a work trip for 2 weeks, and B, I want to show you footage from a real thing and not just like the street outside and trees and bushes and, you know, my dog. That's it. Thank you for watching. My C100 is saying change the battery pack, so looks like we timed this perfectly. Yeah. Take it easy.